So the opioid epidemic is really hitting this country hard. A couple of states, California being one of them, haven't had the problem that we're having here on the East Coast. We don't grow poppies in this country, nor in Maryland. Our heroin drugs come from Mexico and from South America. Some comes from the Far East, but the majority is Mexico, then South America, then the Far East. Fentanyl, carfentanil, the opioids, they're being manufactured in China, and they're being sent here. A small amount of these drugs are needed to get the euphoric feeling of using heroin. And what's happening, people are ordering this stuff online. You actually go online, order it up, and it'll come in through delivery services like FedEx, UPS, those sorts of things. It'll get to the house. Our interdiction groups, Baltimore County, we work with a lot of federal agencies, and they work, of course, on this national problem, trying to interdict these drugs before they get into the country. But I'm going to tell you, working for the Department of Homeland Security, our southwest border is very porous, and a lot of drugs come across it. They come across in vehicles, they come across in foot traffic at the entrances, but a big one they come across, they walk across Mexico into the New Mexicos, the Arizonas, at unguarded locations, happening all the time. They're backpacking in, or they're packing into vehicles. Marijuana is still a great drug of use in this country. A lot of fentanyl, carfentanil, heroin, methamphetamine, cocaine. And one thing we saw at the southwest border, which hadn't been seen for a long, long time, that all of a sudden was a rush of it, was liquid methamphetamine. It was coming in commercial containers. Little jugs of this, or agave juice or something would come in, but smart people who are in this business to detect drugs find it, and they locate these drugs. And it was a time when you'd find a lot of hidden compartments in these vehicles, but now it's just blatant. They just take a car, take a vehicle, pack it full of drugs, and hope it get across. And they do get a lot of it does get across, and then starts to come east. One thing that they saw when this was happening was an increase in the firearms seized, handguns especially. Anecdotally, they talked about this huge increase in firearms, and because the federal government can't track the information about firearms, you have to rely upon local jurisdictions putting information out, and you can get from it a pretty graphic picture of how many firearms are out there. But the biggest group of dealers that they found the firearms on were marijuana dealers. The people that were trafficking in tons of marijuana, pack a car with hundreds of pounds, or a tractor trailer with tons of it, and send it across the country. Good, smart law enforcement officers are interdicting these groups on the interstate systems. It's called the Domestic Highway Enforcement Program. They would interdict these vehicles, and they would find large amounts of drugs that are coming across firearms. Here in Baltimore County, last year we had 35 criminal homicides. 8 of those homicides were a result of marijuana dealing. 8 of them, 8 of the 35. We've had 13 this year, criminal homicides. 2 of those were marijuana dealing. Marijuana is not a victimless crime. It's a very violent crime, very lucrative crime. They make a lot of money off of it. But we're doing the best we can. You've got they call it the Eastern Community Drug Unit, working multiple cases down this area of the county, always working. They get information from you, they get information from law enforcement, and they pass it on, and then the drug unit investigates it. They're making a lot of arrests, but it's a lot of money in it. And what is the answer? I don't know what the answer is other than prevention. Education and prevention, especially when it comes to this epidemic we're seeing with opioids and heroin. It is lethal. It is killing. And the intensity of the heroin business is such that everybody's clamoring for a high, that higher high. So that if they hear about somebody that's got a real hot drug that's going to give you a high, they're searching for it. They're looking for it, unfortunately. But it's a dangerous, dangerous business. Another part that we're seeing a lot of problems nationally and here locally are gangs. There's something called MS-13, Mara Salvatrucha. Back in the 80s, a large group of people left El Salvador and they went to California, and they quickly found out that they were easy prey to the gangs in California, the established gangs. So they learned from these gangs how to be a gang, and they started moving east with a vengeance. They came into small areas like the Shenandoah Valley down in Virginia and wreaked havoc. These people aren't into any one kind of crime, they're into multiple crimes. They're trafficking. Open up to any questions. Anybody have any questions? Yes, sir.
Chief Buzz Buell, the Baltimore Post.
Yeah, Buzz. Baltimore Post?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, a lot of people know of this, including.
Okay.
But anyway, getting back to your opening statement,
Right.
you basically gave credence to the fact that the immigration problem is a critical problem in the United States, including Baltimore County. Then on the other hand, Mr. Kamenetz comes out and says, well, we're not going to do ICE's work, okay?
Yeah.
But, however, now you mentioned Brian Frost, and we don't know what side of the aisle he stands on.
Who's that?
Brian Frost, the Attorney General, okay? Now, here's the problem. Fox News has been all over the MS-13 issue. We've written about it numerous times. And what happens is that in Norfolk County up in New York, Suffolk County rather, they blame political correctness on the growth of MS-13. Now, you go back to Kate's Law and all these other issues. Now, Mr. Kamenetz came out on WBAL and said that our crime rate is down because of our policy on not involving immigration issues. By being a sanctuary state, it helps the people come forward and identify crimes and things of that nature. But actually, crime is up in Baltimore County by 4.3%. So, on the one hand, I applaud you for being honest, but then you do a flip-flop.
I did a flip-flop?
Yeah.
How was that?
Well, you claim that we're not going to do ICE's work, but yet the police officer in the street is the one that encounters most of these illegals.
Buzz, a couple of things you point out real quick. This is not a sanctuary county.
Well, that's what Mr. Kamenetz is claiming.
But no, he's not. What he's saying is we're going to abide by the law, and we aren't going to take people into custody on administrative warrants. You cannot arrest somebody on an administrative warrant issued by an ICE agent. We don't have the authority to do that. What Mr. Kamenetz is talking about is that we want witnesses to come forward to tell us about crimes.
Right.
We don't want a chilling effect upon those people. But I'm telling you, if these officers come across a suspect in a crime and that person's status in this country is such that ICE is going to deport them, then we're going to notify ICE. Then ICE can do whatever they're going to do. We are not going to become ICE agents.
Right.
We don't have the resources for it. We have enough daily things to do, and Immigration Customs Enforcement has their job to do. And if we can collaborate, we will. But we are not going to go out and go into a business and say, show us your
Nobody's suggesting that. No,
I'm just telling you what we're doing. And Brian Frost's position on this is exactly as I've described it, and they're looking at it from the legal standpoint. How to protect these officers from when they do their job so that they aren't doing something illegal, which they could end up being charged themselves or sued.
That's not illegal.
What, serving an administrative warrant?
No, I'm talking about an officer doing his job on the street. You stop an MS-13 member that doesn't speak English, okay, on the street, it's a traffic stop. You run his record. First of all, you can only know who he is because he can't speak English, okay? He's tattooed all over with MS-13, okay? This happens in New York all the time. So what do?
But you were a police officer for many years.
Right,
Did you ever stop somebody like that?
Oh, yes, I did.
And what did you do about it?
I had to release them because they didn't speak English, number one. Number two, I couldn't identify who they were. I tried to identify who they were, and I was told to release them because there's nothing I could do. That was exactly what I was told. There's nothing we can do because he doesn't speak the language, he has no ID.
If their police officers make a determination that through a criminal investigation that the suspect they're dealing with is here illegally, then we're going to do all we can to contact the federal government, the Immigration Customs Enforcement, and explain to them what we have. And a lot of people are here without going through the vetting process, so we don't have fingerprints on them. But some have been here multiple times and have been taken back, so that we do have fingerprints on them. So, yes, ma'am, you got a question?
I think you just answered my question. If one of our officers stops someone on the street and arrests them, say, for a serious crime.
Yep.
And you do not have any paperwork on them, they're in fact here in the country without paperwork,
Mhm.
would you then contact ICE?
Yes, yeah.
That
Yeah.
answers my question.
If, in a normal course of a criminal investigation or a serious traffic violation that's, it's a must appear, you have to go to court, these officers are gonna make a determination of who that person is. And one of the things that's gonna happen is they're gonna have to go before a district court commissioner and post a bond.
Hmm,
Uh,
Right,
Well, yes, it is Buzzy.
no, it's not.
Okay.
thank you.